Today is Thursday, July 27th. What to know about another interest rate hike, this time bringing the rate to the highest we've seen since 2001. Also, what Senator McConnell had to say after he froze mid-sentence while talking to reporters, and why there was an unexpected turn of events in the Hunter Biden legal case. Plus, what to watch for exactly 1 year before the next Olympic Games. Why 7 of the world's largest automakers are teaming up. And the newest foldable smartphones in the spotlight this week. Those stories and more news to know today coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. The Federal Reserve has once again raised interest rates, this time to a 2-decade high. The Fed announced an increase of a 0.25 percentage point yesterday, bringing the benchmark rate to between 5.25 and 5.5%. And even though the Fed chose to keep rates steady just last month, this week's move marks the 11th increase since March of last year when rates were near zero. Of course, with higher interest rates, borrowing money continues to get pricier. Think mortgages, credit cards, and auto loans. So what's next? Well, it's not totally clear yet. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell hinted that future decisions will just depend on economic progress, especially inflation. Remember, inflation has come down from the 40-year high it hit last summer, but it's still not quite as low as Fed officials want to see. Officials are scheduled to meet 3 more times this year, with the next meeting in September. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell suddenly stopped speaking during opening remarks of his weekly press conference, causing a lot of concern about his health. He was mid-sentence when he kind of froze, and he seemed to just stare straight ahead for about 20 seconds. He was then escorted away. McConnell is 81 years old and was in the hospital for a concussion after a fall just about 4 months ago. But later, a McConnell aide said he had just felt lightheaded for a moment and noted that he did come back to take part in a Q&A section of the press conference. When a reporter asked about what happened and if it was related to his previous injury, McConnell said, quote, "No, I'm fine." Well, it was a surprise reversal. President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, pleaded not guilty to tax charges. We had expected him to plead guilty as part of a deal with the Justice Department that could apparently help him avoid prosecution on a separate gun offense. So why the change? Well, even though the hearing was expected to formalize the deal, the hearing turned into a testy 3-hour proceeding. And ultimately, a judge said she was not ready to accept the plea deal, and she put it on hold. The judge cited what she called the atypical nature of the agreement and said she needed more information, questioning the scope of Biden's immunity from any potential future charges. Republicans have continued to accuse the Justice Department of giving the Bidens special treatment, though prosecutors reportedly indicated that Hunter Biden is still under active investigation, and the DOJ says politics has nothing to do with any of it. The White House also says it's being handled without any interference from President Biden or others. At this point, both Hunter Biden's legal team and prosecutors have been given 30 days to offer more information to the judge before a final decision about this plea deal is made. Well, here's a topic that is seemingly uniting lawmakers for a change: UFOs. Congress members from both parties are now pushing for more transparency surrounding unidentified flying objects, or the newest term, UAP, for unidentified anomalous phenomena. It comes as an Air Force veteran told House lawmakers that Congress has been kept in the dark for years, even decades. David Grush served for 14 years as an intelligence officer in the Air Force and even had a role on 2 Pentagon task forces investigating UAP until earlier this year. He's the same former official we mentioned last month who had filed a whistleblower complaint and talked to media about this. He testified to lawmakers that he was told of a UAP crash retrieval program, but was denied access to the classified materials. And that he was even told later when he interviewed officials that there were aircraft with non-human origins discovered. 2 other pilots also testified about their own encounters with UAP while on missions during this hearing. One of them had spotted a large object captured in the now famous Tic Tac video of the early 2000s. It was called that since he had compared the object to a Tic Tac mint. All 3 witnesses who testified said current reporting systems are not good enough. And they called out a stigma that they say still exists for pilots and officials who want to talk about their experiences. Now, lawmakers are continuing to push military and intelligence agencies to release more information, saying this could be a national security threat. In fact, a bipartisan group of senators has already been pushing to declassify government documents related to UAP. At last check, the Pentagon has not responded directly to this week's hearing, but has pushed back against some of the claims before. So, to be continued. All right, we have more news for you just ahead, from a crane collapse to the reason major automakers are teaming up and more. But first, I want to tell you about our sponsor. So, of course, I hope you've made this podcast part of your everyday routine and that you feel more informed and have better conversations because of it. But now, if you're looking for a new simple daily habit to add into that could help you feel boosted energy and that you're giving your body the nutrition it craves, then consider AG1. That's at least how I feel now that I drink AG1 every day. I drink it before I've eaten anything else, and it makes me feel like I've set myself up for success for the rest of the day. With this one step of mixing a scoop of AG1 and water, maybe some ice and lemon juice, I immediately am signaling to myself that I care about my body, I care about my health, and that I want to feel good and energized today, and that I'm willing to take the necessary action. I truly notice a difference in my days. I feel sustained energy, improved digestion, and even more supported for mental clarity and focus. So if you're looking for a simpler, effective investment for your health, try AG1. And you can get 5 free AG1 travel packs and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase. So go to drinkag1.com/newsworthy. That's drinkag1.com/newsworthy. Check it out. Okay, now back to the news. Well, maybe you've already seen the pretty dramatic video on social media. A construction crane partially collapsed onto the street in Midtown Manhattan yesterday. It started with a fire in the engine compartment of the crane, and it was high up, 45 stories above the street. The crane operator apparently tried putting the fire out, but couldn't. And then part of the crane and its 16-ton load came crashing down. It even hit the side of a building along the way. 11 people were hurt, including 2 firefighters, but they're all said to have minor injuries. So fire officials called it a good morning, considering it could have been a lot worse. 2-time Oscar-winning actor Kevin Spacey has now been cleared of all charges of sexual assault. This week, a jury in London found him not guilty of 9 charges that stemmed from 4 men's accusations. Spacey cried and mouthed thank you to the jury. He later told reporters he was humbled and enormously grateful the jury took the time to examine all the evidence. Spacey even testified during the trial, saying there was a rush to judgment that led him to losing his job, reputation, and everything in a matter of days. That acquittal comes almost 6 years after allegations of inappropriate behavior began to emerge on both sides of the Atlantic. And just last year, a federal jury in New York already found Spacey not liable for battery after actor Anthony Rapp filed a lawsuit against him, accusing him of sexual assault. So what now for Spacey and his career? He apparently told a German magazine last month that there are people ready to hire him as soon as he's cleared of the charges. So we'll see. The Irish singer-songwriter Sinead O'Connor has died. She became a superstar in her mid-20s when her 1990 version of Prince's song Nothing Compares to You spent 4 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and was nominated for 3 Grammy Awards, including Record of the Year. But she's been in the middle of controversy, too, such as when she faced fallout from her Saturday Night Live appearance a couple of years later. She tore up a picture of the Pope in protest of child sex abuse in the Catholic Church. She's also been open about her mental illness, saying she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Her family has not released how she died, but put out a statement announcing her passing and asking for privacy. The Irish Prime Minister wrote on social media that, quote, her music was loved around the world and her talent was unmatched and beyond compare. Sinead O'Connor was 56. 7 of the globe's biggest car makers just announced they're teaming up to build a massive network of electric vehicle chargers across America. We're talking giants like General Motors, BMW, Honda, Mercedes-Benz, and more. So why is this happening? Well, as GM CEO said, quote, the better experience people have, the faster EV adoption will grow. It could help potential EV buyers shake off that so-called range anxiety, the fear that your battery is going to run out before you find a charging station. And the group is also trying to accelerate the rollout of these charging stations using a huge chunk of federal subsidies. This new group of automakers is planning to spend at least $1 billion on the project, but will also look to leverage around $7.5 billion in federal funding. Plus, they're likely looking to compete with Tesla and other EV charging networks like Electrify America. The new stations are set to run on renewable energy, and just like some others now, they'll likely be installed around things like restrooms, food, and retail shops. Ultimately, they hope to roll out at least 30,000 super-fast chargers in cities and along highways by the year 2030, with the first ones to open next year in the U.S. Foldable phones took the spotlight at Samsung's second Galaxy Unpacked event of the year. when the company reveals the latest in smartphones, tablets, and more. First up, the Galaxy Z Flip 5 is out and sporting a bigger cover display and folds totally flat. It keeps the same price as the Z Flip 4, about $1,000. Samsung also revealed a thinner and lighter Galaxy Z Fold 5 that also now folds without a gap around the hinge. It costs about $1,800. As for the smartwatches, there's now the Galaxy Watch 6 that has bigger batteries and larger screens, and the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic sees the return of the rotating bezel. Finally, for tablet fans, Samsung dropped the Galaxy Tab S9 series, and those will be dust and water resistant now. You can pre-order devices now, and they'll be arriving on August 11th. Well, that is it for the main news today, so now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. But first, this episode is brought to you by our sponsor, BetterHelp. When I first started this podcast and the business that supports it, I had a lot of excitement, but also some doubts. It was a big risk to leave my established career in TV news, and it felt like a bit of a roller coaster ride from one day to the next. Well, that was around the time I realized that therapy can be a huge help. It helped me to continue to trust myself, even in those challenging moments, and still move forward with confidence. Yes, therapy can be helpful for a lot of different things, from careers to relationships and beyond, and is not just for those who have experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of giving therapy a go, one option is called BetterHelp. It's entirely online, designed to be more convenient and accessible. So just fill out a brief questionnaire to get started, and you'll be matched with a licensed therapist. And keep in mind, you can switch therapists anytime at no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/newsworthy today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, betterhelp.com/newsworthy. Now back to Thing to Know Thursday. So the countdown to the Paris 2024 Olympics has begun. Yesterday marked exactly 1 year until the opening ceremony, and the president of the International Olympic Committee, or IOC, sent out formal invites for nations worldwide to gather in Paris next year. He invoked John Lennon's Imagine during his address, arguing that our fragile world with conflicts, divisions, and wars rising needs the Olympics' unifying power more than ever. Still notably missing from the invite list, Russia and Belarus, largely due to the backdrop of Russia's war on Ukraine, though Russian athletes might still be able to compete as neutrals. There are other controversies as well to watch, such as questions about security, budget, and even a corruption investigation into possible favoritism in how contracts were awarded. As for some of the fun stuff in 2024, well, the Paris Olympics will have the first opening ceremony held outside of a stadium. The Parade of Nations will take place on boats on the Seine River, snaking its way toward the Eiffel Tower. Also, a new sport joins the games for the first time, breakdancing, or breaking as it's called. And even though surfing first debuted in Tokyo, it will return to the Olympics in Tahiti in French Polynesia, 9,800 miles away from Paris, marking the farthest away an Olympic medal competition has been held from the host city. All right, thank you so much for listening and making us part of your day. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.